Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris here with some more Mage Night. This is the second round of the third game of the league in which I finished recently on the Board Game Geek Mage Night forums. Just a quick recap of round one. Wolfhawk, Arythia, and Goldix came out the best in that round. It's really a neck-and-neck game between those three. Tovak could still win, but he was definitely the big loser of the first round. He just moved here, took out a dungeon, and then crawled back here, didn't even get a chance to recruit a unit, so he's in tough shape. Wolfhawk's advantages is that she is excellently positioned, probably the best of all the heroes. She can explore in two different places. She's got this dungeon here, and she got a really good skill, Deadly Aim. However, her disadvantage is that she got no units. I was playing Arythia. My advantage is that I managed to burn a monastery, and before doing so recruited the scouts. I got the Banner of Courage, which I put on the scouts, and I'm standing on a dungeon. However, the problem is that I don't really want to go to this maze. It would be out of position and take up a lot of resources. 4 to move here, plus at least another 2 move to go into the maze. And I don't want to take out this keep, because you generally don't want to take out keeps early on unless you're going to spend a lot of time around them. The only thing near this keep is this maze, which I don't want to go to. Goldix got the best unit in the game available at the moment, the Familiars. However, he is grotesquely out of position after conquering a blue altar. He's got to tangle with these ironclads, and then all this stuff is 5 movement terrain. And there's nothing on this tile for him, so he's going to have to spend a lot of resources just getting somewhere to go. It is worth noting, however, that because a village was revealed here, there was actually a secret dungeon placed right here, and that gives Goldix a little bit more to do on this tile, and I actually forgot to mention that in the last video, but still, he's going to have to spend a lot of movement just getting anywhere. Okay, I was actually the first person to pick tactics. We go in reverse fame order, and if there's a tie, whoever went last goes to pick the new tactic first. So even though I'm in much better shape than Tovak, quantitatively, I'm actually the first tactic picker. And I chose Preparation in a heartbeat. So Preparation lets you take any card out of your deck that you want, because my hand was abysmal. So here it is. I need combat. What did I get? Movement, mana, influence, and just a swiftness. So I needed to take more combat out of the deck. I chose Battle Versatility. Notice again how good it is to be Arythia. So my picking her, saying, oh, she has some theoretical advantages over the other heroes, it's not just, a moot point. It really makes a difference. Battle Versatility allows me to go into this dungeon with the ability to actually do ranged attack 6, as long as I can pull off a mana pull. And that's something that other heroes are going to have a much harder time with. If I were someone else, I could have taken my other swiftness out, but with this being mana draw, I'd have to rely on there being a white die in the source. Whereas here, I'm okay as long as there's a black die in the source, and I can play the mana pull in that case, just using the first ability of the mana pull to do that. Actually, you know what? Forget all that. That's not true, because there needs to be a white die in the source anyway for me to play Swiftness. I guess what makes it a little bit better for Arythia is that now if there's a red die in the source but no white, then with Mana Pull I could do it. I could use the red die to power Versatility for 3 ranged attack, play Mana Pull, grab a black die, and use that to power Swiftness. So yes, Arythia is better. Forget me telling you to forget all that, because yes, it really makes a huge difference here with these basic cards. Arythia is much more secure than any other character going down into this dungeon. In any case, I should probably flip up my skill, Dark Fire Magic, giving me some mad manas, and that's what I did. After that, Tovak was next to pick tactics, and he made a sound choice. He just took from the dusk to have more turns than anyone else. That's always a very fine pick. In general, I find the night tactics to be a little bit weaker compared to the day tactics, so going first at night is pretty good. Goldix picking next chose Long Night. This rarely comes into play. Mainly the thing about this is that you are early in the turn order. And Wolfhawk picks Sparing Power. In general, Mana Search and Midnight Meditation are very hard to get excited about. Midnight Meditation is very strong. The problem with it is that the cards that you discard can actually be drawn again, which makes it much less appealing. And Mana Search, you often end up helping your opponents as much as you help yourself. So she took Sparing Power, which basically lets her store a card every turn and then flip it once to take all the cards that were stored into her hand and have a really, really big turn. It also is kind of like getting an extra turn, if you think about it, because you're basically playing, quote-unquote, an extra card every turn that you get by putting it under the Sparing Power card. So it allows you to accelerate even though you're going behind all the other players. Okay, so that was the tactic selection, meaning the turn order was Tovak, Goldix, Arythia, and finally Wolfhawk. Let's go ahead and not delete these, but return them to the stack. and begin our round. So Tovak started things off pretty slowly. He just played Tranquility powered by a green die to heal up a couple of wounds that he was holding. One thing I will note is I am not going to show in this video Tovak using his skill, because it's kind of tedious for me to set up, but suffice it to say throughout the round and indeed the rest of the game, Tovak was using this pretty regularly to discard wounds and draw replacement cards. After doing that, he rolled the green die white. Then it was Goldix's turn. So Goldix had a much more eventful first turn. He actually played very cleverly. You can learn a lot from this play. Pavel's definitely a very strong player. So what he did was he played Learning with one of the white dice for 4 influence and the ability to purchase a card from the advanced actions offer for 9 influence. To get the remaining 5 influence that he needed to do that, he actually spent his familiars, whom he had fed with a white crystal to keep them in his employ, and that gave him 5 influence. So these guys are really, really strong. With the 9 influence, let's go ahead and check out our card offer. He purchased Regeneration, which allows you to ready a unit and also get some healing. That's ridiculous. When you have the familiars, being able to reuse them is just absolutely incredible. So this was a very strong move. But Goldix wasn't done yet, because see, that doesn't take up your action for the turn. You just, do that. You play Learning, pay the influence, get the card. Where did the card go? Hello? Did I not? Oh, yeah, there we go. You get the card, and then you can still do other things. You can still move, you can still attack. So at this point, actually, after we saw that In Need appeared in the offer, Goldix engaged these Ironclads to get them out of the way. And the way that he took care of them was pretty instructive. So what he actually did was he wounded the familiars. They took 5 damage. There was still 8 damage, or 3 damage to go, because these guys deal double damage, so that's a total of 8 damage. For that 3 damage, Goldix took 2 wounds upon his own person. Then he killed the Ironclads by playing Rage, powered by one of his red crystals. That's 4 attack. He needed 2 more attack to kill them. He provided that by playing Tranquility and Stamina sideways for the 6 attack. So the Ironclads were killed, and he got 4 fame and reputation, going up to level 3 in the process, because Wolfhawk, although Wolfhack would be a great name for that terrible hero, Wolfhawk had kindly obliged him by by breaking the seal for the 3rd level at the end of the previous round. Then, at the end of the turn, he actually played Regeneration to heal one of his wounds and ready the familiars. Note that even if a unit is wounded and therefore cannot be used, you can actually still ready the unit while it is wounded. And then he, because he was still standing on this glade, healed up the other wound. So this was a really strong turn for him. He got fame, he took care of the obstruction, and he picked up an amazing skill, Regeneration, or not a skill, an amazing advanced action, which was incredibly helpful for him. Okay, so that was it for Goldix's turn. One quick thing to note, you might notice with Healing Potion, Goldix could heal the familiars, but there's no reason to rush that. You can just wait and do that at the appropriate time, which can be helpful in some instances. Okay, so the white die got re-rolled blue, adding some much-needed variety to the source, and that was it for Goldix's turn. So I was up next, and here, I made a mistake. So if you would like to see me screw up a whole lot, this is definitely the video to watch. I made a lot of very educational mistakes. I apologize in advance for my bad play, but you know what? I hope you just don't get too angry at me and instead learn from my errors. Basically, I was going to, and I'll move my hand away just a little bit so you can see this. I was gonna go into this dungeon no matter what. I can't pass this up. I was gonna do it no matter how bad it was. So given that, I should have just dived in. Instead, I spent the scouts to peek at what the top monster in the dungeon was. This is not worth it. I should have kept the scouts around for their movement ability or maybe even their siege attack. And getting 1 fame here is just not that useful to me. So I took a peek, and I saw a Cryptworm, and this is just horrifically bad luck, because of the brown enemies that were available, 9 out of the 14, which is a high percentage, I could have killed with, thanks to the white die in the source, mana pull, swiftness, and battle versatility, but of course I flipped the Cryptworm. Since I wasn't level 3 yet, this would mean taking 3 wounds, but what was I going to do? Move away somewhere else and get ready to take out the Mage Tower? I was going to take just as many wounds there. Taking out this keep, I'm still going to take, that many wounds. Because I have so little combat potential, I cannot afford to use battle versatility for blocking and block something and then attack it. It's just hopeless. So basically, that sucked. And I realized after looking at the Crypt Worm that even though it was like the worst enemy that I could have found in there, I had to do it because there was nothing better for me to do. So I shouldn't have spent the scouts for this. Anyway, I dove in and I decided to fight the Crypt Worm. In doing so, I took bam, 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 3 wounds. And then I did kill it. The way that I chose to kill it was as follows. I actually played Dark Fire Magic. Where did my skill go? Is it? Oh, it's over here. I flipped Dark Fire Magic to get a red crystal and a red token. I used the red token to power battle versatility for 4 attack. I played swiftness powered by the white die for 3 more attack, and with 7 attack, I killed the Crypt Worm and it died. Good. Non-redundant language there. I ended up getting 5 fame and an artifact. So let's go ahead and take care of business on the fame track first. Goldix had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4 fame for the Ironclads and a level up and a reputation. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fame for taking out the dungeon. And then I also got to choose for an artifact. My artifact choice was Bag of Gold or Banner of Fortitude. Not exactly what I was hoping for. Banner of Fortitude is not the best banner, first of all. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. And on top of that, I already have a banner on my units, and I don't really want to put Banner of Fortitude on the scouts anyway. It's going to be a while before I get any more units. This thing's not very good for the scouts because their armor is so low. It's just has a very minimal impact. I could use the Banner of Courage, ready the scouts, and put the Banner of Fortitude on them, but that was such a minimal impact, it was just not a very good choice. Now, Bag of Gold, I like it a lot. If nothing else, you can play it for the fame. Note that Lost Legion changed the rules a bit. It used to be you couldn't play Bag of Gold unless you were interacting, but the Lost Legion rulebook clarified things. You can now get influence whenever you want to, so you can play it for the 2 fame. Not that I really needed 2 fame at the moment, and I was far away from being able to, interact with anybody, but that was, just, in my opinion, the better choice. So I went ahead and grabbed the Bag of Gold, and at this point, I was in a bit of an awkward situation because I had a very full hand, really, really full. In fact, so full that I was not even going to draw my Bag of Gold. It was sitting on top of my deck. I was still holding on to, 7 cards, 4, and then the 3 wounds. Okay, so that was it for me. Oh yes, let me level up, get my next token. And the white die that I had used re-rolled to gold, becoming unusable in the night. Womp womp. Next up was our sparing power hero, Wolfhawk. So Wolfhawk started off with a pretty slow round. There's a lot of stalling in this game. This was a very long night. She played Stamina, and with that she moved to the dungeon. She chose not to explore yet. And then she played Crystallize using a blue die in order to gain a white crystal. She then re-rolled the blue die to green, which made it the really, really green source. Nothing you could do here unless you're using green mana. The end. On to turn number 2. So Tovak, who's been playing it very slowly and leisurely, continued this. He played March, powered by one of the innumerable green dice, Stamina, and Swiftness for a lot of movement. He used this movement to travel onto the mine in the desert. So this is a total of 2, 4, 7 movement. Deserts are only 3 movement at night. And he collected a crystal for ending his turn on this red-white mine. He chose a white crystal for his purposes, and that was it for him. He re-rolled his green die and got a black one. So the source was now half dead, and the other half was only green. Ouch. Next up was Goldix. After having a pretty strong turn the previous round, what he needed here was some movement, and he was able to get it. So he played Crystal Joy, his absolute favorite card, with a green die, getting a green crystal. Then he flipped Potion Making in order to heal the familiars here. They're healed. And he spent them for 5 movement. With that, he was able to hop east, and then he discarded Threaten in order to keep Crystal Joy. So Crystal Joy stayed in his hand, and the green die got re-rolled to, you guessed it, black. So the source was dying out very fast, but this is not too surprising in the night until people start playing the strong effects of spells. There's a 1 in 3 chance every time a die is rolled it's going to be gold or black, which is unusable. So the sources die out really quickly if nobody's taking Mana Search. Okay, Arithia, which was me, had a tough decision to make. I could, of course, just rest here and get rid of these wounds. But I had these movement cards. I wanted to use them, and I didn't particularly relish the thought of sitting next to Tovak because while it would be really better for him to do his own thing, he could attack me knowing that I was weak and get 3 fame for forcing me to move out of the way. Not that I thought he would do that necessarily, but it just didn't seem very safe sitting here. I figured if I'm going to use these cards for movement, might as well do it now while the source has mana in it. So I played March, powered by a green die for 4 movement, and I played Stamina for 2 more. With 6 movement, I was able to traverse the 2 desert spaces and end up in the desert space between the keep and that tower. So there's no way I can actually scroll, is there? Okay, so anyway, the green die got re-rolled to blue. I was the only person who didn't roll black or gold there, and my Stamina and March were discarded. Note that I was holding Mana Pull, Threaten, and 3 wounds, so I actually still didn't draw any cards. I wasn't playing slowly per se, but it was as if I was playing slowly just because I didn't have anything that I could draw with all these wounds in my hand. If I had drawn like a regular old, Hydra or Manticore or something, then I would have had 3 extra cards in my hand and potentially been able to do a lot more. Okay, so that was it. I ended my turn. Next up was Wolfhawk. So Wolfhawk was over here at this juncture, and in fact, I think I better zoom out. So I apologize for making things small, but we're going to have to do that in order to be able to see anything pretty soon here. So, okay, Wolfhawk, on her turn, played March, powered by the last green die, so the green dried up really quick to explore. She, of course, explored to the northwest, because that was unique to her, not giving Tovak any favors. And she played Threaten after this. With the 2 remaining movement from the March plus 1 from Threaten, she was able to move to the Ruin. And she left this dungeon behind. Now, this was a potentially controversial choice. She didn't, it seems, have good cards for taking out the dungeon. And so she chose to just pass it up in favor of going for this Ruin. I think in general, you would want to try to take this dungeon out. Not only does it give bonus scoring in this scenario, but it gives a really good reward. You don't know what this Ruin's going to be. It could be something impossible, like with dragons or white enemies. She would have no chance of taking that. It could be like an altar, basically. She doesn't have the mana for that, and the source is dry. Again, it's possible that just her hand was so bad that there was nothing for her to do and this really was the best move, but I'm pretty skeptical. I think it would have been better to stick around here, maybe take a risk and go into the dungeon, or explore over here and yes, give a gift to Tovak, but perhaps have first dibs on it. I'm not sure. Anyway, she chose to go to the hills and see what this Ruin was. It turned out to be a decent one, 2 purples, giving you a spell and an advanced action if you could kill it. A pretty big reward. Very tough challenge for someone of this level, but doable. Granted, she had no units, which makes it a lot harder, but she had sparing power, so she could get a couple of extra cards off of that. So that was her turn. She re-rolled the green die into gold, because of course I was the only person who wanted to keep the source alive. I'm just joking, of course, you can't control what you roll, but anyway, that's what it looked like. So that was it for Wolfhawk. Back around the horn to Tovak. Tovak played Stamina, powered by a blue die to explore. One thing that we were really good at doing is using the very limited source that was available. He played Stamina there, explored, found this tile, which is generally a nice tile. There were some Wolf Riders back here, and of course, Blue-Green Mine. And he actually managed to get on there. He played Swiftness and Threaten, so that left him with 5 movement. He was actually able to move on to this mine, and he collected a green crystal for his troubles. The blue die that he rolled was gold. So the source was dead, totally dead, and it was the 3rd turn, which is, a little bit remarkable, but not too much, again, considering how easy it is to run out of cards in the night, or run out of source dice in the night. Goldix had a pretty great turn. He played Crystal Joy with a blue crystal in order to gain a green crystal. So he just saved up green crystals that he knew he would need, and he did not keep Crystal Joy in his hand because there was no point, so he just let it get discarded. That was it. Okay, Arithia was me. It was time to rest. So I discarded Threaten, and I discarded these 3 wounds, resting. So those 3 wounds were going to come back, of course, but it was better than nothing. I drew my artifact I'd picked up, a movement spell, Tranquility, and Swiftness. Okay, so that was it for my turn. I just rested. Wolfhawk was up next, and here Wolfhawk flipped Sparing Power to get a big hand of cards. And she played Mana Storm, powered by a white crystal, to re-roll the source. So she was going in for this Ruin. Now, again, I think it's possible that I'm colored by hindsight, knowing what happened next, to say that this was a mistake and she should have really just taken out this dungeon. But I think objectively, it was a risk to do this, and the dungeon would have given her a good reward, an artifact or a spell, made it maybe easier for her to take out this ruin. Maybe she could have held on a sparing power and taken out this keep. The keep wasn't a bad place to be. I mean, she could go here. It's a bit out of position, but we know that it's an easy enemy. It's just monks. She could, at this keep, perhaps recruit a unit. There were some things that could have been recruited there. There were the guardian golems that could have been recruited that no one else was likely to actually end up grabbing. She could have maybe recruited the familiars at the mage tower that were here. I actually hadn't shown you the unit offer before, but there it is. She could have taken the familiars perhaps at the mage tower if she was lucky enough. So, she could have done some other things than trying a very difficult ruin with a 7-card hand. But anyway, she did it. So she first played Mana Storm, which rerolled all the dice in the source. And the result was not super lucky. When you play Mana Storm, for the rest of the turn, any gold or black dice, you can use as dice of any other color, so you obviously want to roll lots of those. But she did not roll any gold or black. She rolled a green, 2 blues, and 3 reds. My experience playing with Mana Storm is that that card is overrated. And when I say overrated, I don't mean that it's bad. I really just do mean it's overrated. Like, it's good, it's just not as good as people seem to think it is. You can get some pretty bad outcomes with Mana Storm, and at the end of the day, all you're getting is a bunch of mana, which is okay, but I'd rather have cards that give me crystals, or cards like even Blood Ritual in a lot of cases that, yes, I take a wound, but at least I can get whatever mana I want. Anyway, she played Mana Storm, then she dove into the Ruin. She got a very unlucky draw. She got familiars and ice golems. The problem is she had ranged attack 6, but neither of these units died to ranged attack 6, which is unlucky because most purple units do. I think there was like an 8% chance of getting 2 units, neither of which died to ranged attack 6. But I don't know that the risk, even though it was a small risk, was a necessary risk for her to be taking at this point, because there were other things that she could have done with her time. So how did she react to this very bad roll? Well, I think she made the best of it. So Wolfhawk played Determination, powered by a blue die. Recall that Mana Storm lets you play 3 extra dice from the source. So that meant that Wolfhawk actually had access to 4 dice here, her regular die for the turn, plus 3 more. So she played Determination with a blue die in order to block the ice golems and not have to discard her entire hand. That was essential. Then she played Improvisation, powered by a red die, discarding Rage to block the familiars. Now, she didn't need the red die, but she was just using it, to roll it, which is smart. Sometimes you just want to use dice at night just to make them get rolled so that it increases the chance of getting gold or black for your opponents to not have good dice in the source. She blocked one of the familiars' attacks, but the other one went through, and she did have to take 3 wounds for that because she was not level 3 yet. At level 3, she would have only taken 2 wounds. So that was unfortunate for her. Then she played Concentration, powered by a green die, on top of Rage, which with Deadly Aim gave her 8 attacks. So look how good Deadly Aim is. It was enabling her to get ranged attack to kill something, but she didn't manage to get the ranged attack off, so she got the 2 attack normally, which some of the combat skills would not be able to do both of those things. Anyway, that's a total of 6 plus 2 is 8 damage, which killed the golems, which made sense. She really needed to kill the golems because even though the familiars hit really hard, the golems have to be blocked, and once she's going in there with just a 5-card hand and no units, it's going to be difficult to block them and do 8 attacks. So she took care of the golems first. Whew, okay. So the familiars stuck around. I'll keep them in Wolfhawk's play area because obviously nobody else was going to be fighting them. The dice that she rolled were re-rolled as follows. The green die stayed green. The blue die stayed blue. And then the red die turned gold. And all these cards had been played. So let's shuffle them off this mortal coil and give Wolfhawker 5 fame before passing the buck back around the horn to Tovak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and give Wolfhawk her level up token. Ka-ching! Now she only takes 2 wounds from one of the familiar's attacks, which ends up being significant. Okay, so Tovak was up next. Tovak, again, didn't really do much. He just played March, powered by the green die, and moved over here to the dungeon. He's like, well, Wolfhawk, if you're not going to take it, I sure as hell am. So he just ended his turn there and obviously rolled a gold die. That was it for Tovak. Goldix was up next. And Goldix ended up having a very strong turn here. He played Stamina, powered by a blue die, and Ambush, powered by a green crystal. This is why he was saving up his green crystals, for a total of 8 movement, and then plus Ambush was giving him a bonus to attack. The strong effect gives him a +2 to his first attack. What this means is that he was going to have a guaranteed 8 ranged attack, because he had, turns out, Will Focus and Swiftness, with his green crystal, of course. So with 8 range attack, he could kill any brown enemy except for Cryptworm, which there was only one of because I had taken one out of for him. So he went over here to the secret dungeon, dove in. He was guaranteed to kill anything as long as he played Will Focus with a green crystal onto Swiftness. Apart from Cryptworm, the enemy that he got was not Cryptworm, it was Shadow. Now this was in its own way kind of unlucky because the Shadow is only 4 fame. Obviously, given that he could kill anything, he would have wanted something that was 5 fame. But anyway, it's not too bad. So he went ahead and got 4 fame for that Shadow. 1, 2, 3, 4, which gave him a level up in addition to defeating that dungeon. So Goldix drew some skills, and I apologize, I didn't actually have these skills set up in advance, so you have to forgive me for this. He got Freezing Power for his skill choice. Hey, it was the top one. I forget what the other one was. Doesn't matter. That's what he took. It was something bad. So now he had Freezing Power available. Shoot. Yeah, I didn't make a note of what the skill was that got sent to the common offer. It was something unremarkable. It wasn't like Flight or Universal Power or anything. Freezing Power is a skill that a lot of people malign, but I actually find it to be pretty good. Having +1 attack is just all you need sometimes. The fact that it's ranged or sieged can be really nice, and having elemental attack is nice as well. I'd say overall the hot and cold swordsmanship skills are probably better just because they give 2 attack, but sometimes you really just do need the ranged attack, and I find this to be a perfectly solid skill. Okay, so that was Goldix's skill choice. The card that he took was Steady Tempo. And with this selection, I think that was the right call. Diplomacy is definitely solid. Having some flexibility, you can use it for influence or block, and it gives you elemental block and any kind of elemental block that you want, which is kind of unheard of for advanced actions. But I find that movement is something you just always need, whereas block and influence you can sometimes do without. His reward was an artifact, and we'll see what that was later on. So Goldix re-rolled his die. The blue die that he had used stayed blue, so for once in my life, somebody actually did not roll a gold or black die. And then it was my turn. Now, I was grotesquely unlucky here. It was just really, really bad luck. I decided to play Tranquility, powered by a green crystal, to draw a couple of cards. Because there's nothing I can do with this hand. There's nothing I can do. I can't kill these summoners. It used to be that there were 3 gold dice and 3 black dice in the source, and I could have actually killed the summoners by moving over to the desert over here, and then using Mana Pull to use a black die as white, Swiftness, and then if I played the Flip the Banner of Courage to ready the scouts, I could spend them for siege attack 1 and finish a summoner off. This would give me 4 fame, which would give me not quite a level up, but at least a bonus reputation, and it would sort of let me like bide my time, hoping to build up a bigger hand to be able to get into this wizard tower. Because right now I don't have any combat besides this like 1 swiftness. But when Wolfhawk did Mana Storm, it got rid of all the black dice, and since then there had been no white dice and no black dice added to the source. So that was really, really unlucky that with all 6 dice being rerolled, there would be nothing white or black left. So I really didn't have much to do here. I paid a green crystal to play Tranquility and draw 2 cards from my deck. What I drew was Stamina and Rage, which was unfortunate because, again, I can't really go into this wizard tower safely, but I cannot kill the summoner because there is no white or black mana here. So it was very, very bad luck for me that I was in the situation that I was in. And because I had taken 3 wounds previously, I was already starting to feel a little bit behind. Now, a really good strategy in Mage Knight is this. When you're behind, take risks. Even if things are going to turn out really, really badly, you have to take risks, because if you don't, well, if you're behind, then you're going to lose anyway if you just keep plotting the status quo. So I went ahead and decided to assault the Mage Tower. This could go very, very badly, but at least I wasn't just going to sit around and, wait until I lost. I played Stamina, powered by the blue die for 4 movement, and I readied the scouts with the Banner of Courage, just in case I needed them. And I assaulted the Wizard Tower, losing reputation in the process. The enemy in here was Fire Mages, which was a break, for sure, because they don't hurt too badly, and I can actually kill them. If it had been something like, say, Familiars or Sorcerers, it would have been really, really awful. Even Monks, which were unlikely because one of them was already out, would have been a terrible thing to see. But as it is, all that happened was I took a couple of wounds, and then I killed the monks. What I did was I flipped my Dark Fire Magic, or beg your pardon, I think I already used Dark Fire Magic, yeah. I played Mana Pull to use an extra die from the source. I played Rage, powered by a red die for 4 attack, and then I needed one more attack. I figured Swiftness was pretty valuable, because there was actually a secret dungeon here, next to this village in the Dungeon Lord scenario. So I figured Swiftness would be a good thing to keep around. I still hadn't seen my concentration, for example. That could be nice. So I decided to get my 5th attack point with March, and in that manner I dispatched the Fire Mages. Okay, so all in all, that was pretty decent. Because the Fire Mages gave me 5 fame, I actually leveled up, which if it had been a 4 fame monster, I wouldn't have. So the Fire Mage was really one of the best things I could have found. I did lose a reputation for assaulting the tower, which kind of sucks. And then my skill choice was a very, very difficult one. Again, I didn't set up these skills in advance, so beg your pardon here while I find what I drew. I drew Healing Ritual and Burning Power. This was a very tough choice. Healing Ritual is obviously good because I have 2 wounds, right? But Burning Power would be great with Swiftness. It would actually let me kill off the Summoner and get some badly needed reputation and a bit of extra fame as well. It would also let me cross over to this dungeon without having to fight him. Burning Power is just great overall because when you're fighting in dungeons and tombs, having an extra ranged attack, especially elemental attack, is really good. Basically, for all the reasons I said that Freezing Power was good, I wanted to take Burning Power. However, I decided to grab Healing Ritual in the end because, as good as Burning Power was, Healing Ritual was not only in the abstract a very strong skill, but a skill that I could use right away. So it kind of ticked off both of the things you're looking for when you take a skill in this game. It is good in the short term and good in the long term. I rerolled my dice as follows. The red die stayed red, and the blue die got rolled white. I needed to pick an advanced action. And here, Into the Heat is just, I think, a bad card. Some people say it's good in the end game. I still think it's bad because you can't assign damage to units. So it's like, here's a card that's all about using units. Oh, you can't use units, thanks. Diplomacy's alright, but I had the bag of gold. I didn't want more influence. I took In Need. This, okay, wait. When I said I don't need more influence and then I take an influence card, what I mean is this gave influence and block, but In Need was really strong right away because it gives 3 influence plus 1 for every wound in your hand, so it's 5 influence without having to pay any mana. This I'd have to pay a white mana, which I didn't have, and which would probably be gone for the source just to get 4 mana. And I needed tons of mana to overcome my reputation penalty. So I took In Need. It was an opportunistic move because I could use it immediately. The next card to flip was Intimidate, which is a very, very strong card. I like that card a lot. It's flexible, it's very strong, it's just got everything you need. And I was gearing up with In Need and Bag of Gold to try to overcome my reputation penalty and actually hire the Familiars. That was my plan. Okay, so that was it for me. I finished up my turn. Wolfhawk had a slow turn here. She just played Swift Reflexes and rested. So she, like me, discarded 3 of her wounds, and that was it for her. Back around the horn to Tovak. So, Tovak. Was he finally going to do something? The answer is no. He played Crystallize, powered by the blue die, in order to get a blue crystal. And that was that. He rerolled his blue die to white. So had I taken Diplomacy, I would have actually had mana for it, but that's okay. I was fine taking In Need. The game froze just a little bit here, but don't worry, folks. We're going to be back after a short intermission. Okay, it's not unfreezing, but it usually hiccups every now and then comes back. So anyway, that was it for Tovak's turn. We'll get to Goldix's turn just as soon as the sun freezes. Oh god. Okay, well, let's take a little break here, and then I'll reset the video and come back. Oh, never mind! It just unfroze. Okay, so that was Crystallized. Tovak's done. Yay, yay. 3 cheers for Tovak's. Goldix is up. He played his artifact, which was the Mighty Emerald Ring for a green crystal and a green token. He then played his newly acquired Steady Tempo, which I don't know why I discarded that. He played his newly acquired Steady Tempo and March, powered by the token. Okay, yep, good, Good. Where's March? Okay. One moment, please. He played March, powered by the green token, to move on to the red mine. So I'll have to make this even smaller. So he moved here for 6 movement. This enabled him to end his turn on top of the mine, getting a red crystal in the process. Just a little bit. There we go. Steady tempo, even used for its base effect, stays in your deck. So he put it into the bottom of his deck. And March got discarded, as did the Emerald Ring. I'm going to make sure to remember to give him his fame, because that can make a difference sometimes. Okay. So that was it for Goldix's turn. He was gearing up to attack the Stone Thrower. He made an important strategic call here. He skipped by this Monster Den, which I agree with. In general, Monster Dens are not that great. You kill a random bred enemy, you can use your units, but all you get is 2 crystals. Bit lame for that. Goldix made, I think, the right call here, just to move forward, get a red crystal, and be ready to explore and keep on traveling upwards. So he completely negated his disadvantage from the previous round, which is that he was in bad position, and was able to get out of the place that he was, conquer a dungeon along the way, and zoom right up the map. Meanwhile, I and Wolfhawk squandered our advantages instead of gaining new ones. I took a bunch of wounds, took a bunch more wounds, and Wolfhawk, failed at this ruin here, which was definitely very, very difficult for her. I forgot to give myself a spell for conquering that tower. So the spell that I got was Mana Bolt, which I was, of course, very excited about. And I believe it was still in my deck. Okay, so on my turn, I played the Endless Bag of Gold for 4 influence and 2 fame. Let's give that to me right now before I forget. I played In Need for 3 fame and then also 3 influence, revealing 2 wounds in my hand for 2 more. So this is a total of 4 plus 5 is 9 influence. 9 influence minus my -3 reputation was still 6, so I was actually able to get the familiars. The next spell that appeared here was Chill. I took the familiars. I just needed to do one more thing, which is pay a die from the source to feed them a crystal. And here I made the wrong choice. I gave them a red. I used the red die to give them a red crystal. This is wrong. You pretty much never want the red crystals on the familiars. You always want white, blue, or green. White and green are probably the best of the bunch, but the red is just almost never usable. I should have taken this one, because what this would have let me do is actually spend them for move 5 and go chick over to the secret dungeon while avoiding the summoner. The red, I wasn't going to use the red against the summoner because I wasn't going to let a random Brenner enemy attack me, that's for sure. And I wasn't going to use it in the dungeon because you can't use units in the dungeon. So there's really no reason for me to spend that red crystal, or red die, given that the white dice were equally available. So that was a mistake, for sure. I also flipped Healing Ritual, which healed one of my wounds, and gave the other wound to Goldix. Here, buddy. Enjoy. This was very fortunate that Goldix was the closest player to me, because he was definitely in the lead by this point, and getting some pretty good fortune to boot. So he needed that wound, and every little bit helps when you're struggling. So anyway, that was that. I ended the turn there. Note that if I'd given a white die to these familiars, I could have used them later for influence and maybe even purchased a spell here. But again, I chose red for reasons I honestly do not even comprehend. The red die stayed red, and that was it for me. Wolfhawk finished the job she started. She went back to this ruin that had the familiars. She did not block any other attacks. She just took 4 wounds, much in the manner of a champ. That means she had taken 7 wounds from these singular familiars, which is quite a big deal. She then played her artifact that she had actually picked up the previous round and played sideways, the Diamond Ring, for a white crystal, a white token, and, let's not forget, +1 fame. Yoink! And now it was time to finally beat these familiars down. So she played Swiftness, powered by the white token from the Diamond Ring, and she played Promise, and she played March sideways. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the epic Deadly Rage, killed the familiars. So she got a total of 5 more fame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a huge level up here. So first, she drew some skills. I, again, didn't set these skills up, so I apologize. One of the skills was something stupid, which, let's face it, is every single thing that Wolfhawk has, and the other thing was Wolf's Howl. So she took that one because that's like, apart from Know Your Prey, is the only other skill that Wolfhawk has that's any good. It's, as you can see, extremely clear what it does just by looking at the skills icon. It really leaves absolutely no doubt as to the function of that skill. Basically, you flip it once around sideways, you flip it once around to add +3 to a card that is played sideways. And there's an extra +1 added for each token that she has that does not have a unit in it. So the long and short of it is, with this skill, once per round, she can flip a card sideways for a +6 instead of a +1, which is decent. It also has an interactive effect. It makes all of your opponent's units have -1 attack and -1 block for a round. Every now and then it's devastating. Most of the time it doesn't really matter. This skill, I think, is okay. It's decent. It's solid, but it's not like a blockbuster skill by any means. It's just better than what most of the rest of what Wolfhawk has. So she took that. Then she had to take, of course, a reward for the Ruin, and this was scary because what she took was Mind Read and Intimidate. Now, Intimidate's a very, very good card in general. Mind Read is an interactive spell. What it does is it causes everybody to discard a card belonging to the color that you choose. So you like play Mind Read and you can name green. Everybody has to discard a green card. If you power it up with a black die, you actually get to steal one of the cards that is discarded permanently. So that's obviously very scary here. Now at the moment, we don't have any black mana in the source. So I thought we were going to be safe because Wolfhawk has no way of generating black mana as long as nobody rolled black dice. What I forgot about, much to my dismay later, is that this Glade right here, at night, Glades provide black mana. This is so easy to forget, because in the day they provide gold mana, and that's obviously awesome. At night, black mana is usually useless, so it's easy to forget that Glades provide black mana. You can just sort of dismiss them, but you don't want to dismiss that here. When the opponent has Mind Read, you do not want to dismiss the fact that they are standing right next to a Glade. So we're going to see what happens if you actually dismiss that fact. Anyway, let's go ahead and discard some cards of hers. Whop, 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 and whop. She's holding on to just one of these cards. I don't think she actually was able to take any of those cards because she still had a card left over in her hand, plus these 4 wounds. So she didn't actually draw any of her rewards, and we all knew that. So there was going to be at least another turn before Mind Read got played, but it was there and waiting to happen. Okay. She also chose... so she actually leveled up, and for the level up, the Intimidate was for beating the Ruin. For the level up, she chose Swift Bolt, which is one of the best advanced actions in the game. Huge range attack, and, of course, white mana. Okay, so anyway, all that happened. She was holding on to some stuff. I'll leave this out here, but she wasn't actually holding on to this whole hand. And that was it. The replacement advanced actions was Ice Shield, which was like the biggest piece of crap in the history of advanced actions. Just a terrible, terrible, terrible advanced action. This is just a really bad offer in general. Diplomacy's alright. Some people really swear by this. I think it's good, but not, like, spectacular. And then Into the Heat and Ice Shield just suck. So anyway, that was that. We replaced the spell with Flame Wall, which is a pretty bad spell, so the spell offer was actually quite lame. Chill is really, really bad. And Space Bending is conditionally okay, but usually not that great. Okay, so Wolfhawk was done with her turn. At this point, it was back around to Toback. Was Toback going to do something? Yes, he was going to do something. He entered the dungeon, and in doing so, the poor man found a gargoyle, which you just really never hope for. However, Toback dispatched this gargoyle in a very capable and instructive fashion. He actually played Concentration, powered by a green crystal, onto Dodge and Weave, which reduced the enemy attack by 4. Now, Concentration is a very interesting interaction with Dodge and Weave. It says, when you play this, use the strong effect of another action, and then if that card gives you move, influence, block, or any type of attack, and get that amount +2. What's kind of cool is that if you actually manage to pull off the bonus attack from Dodge and Weave, that gets boosted by concentration, even though it's not immediately gained. So first he did this plus mana draw for 5 block, basically reducing the attack by 4 and then blocking 1. Then the bonus damage from Dodge and Weave kicked in, which was actually 4 damage because of the concentration. So he played Rage, powered by a red die, and the 4 here plus the 4 here killed the gargoyle in quite a sound fashion. So he got 4 fame, 1, 2, 3, 4, and cleared out a dungeon. Finally leveling up to level 3, still not having any units though. And that was all that he did, the red die, as red dice often do, stayed red. And that was his turn. I believe he got an artifact from this, yes. So let's go ahead and mark this dungeon with a shield. Ka-ching! And it was back up to Goldix. So Goldix decided to engage the stone thrower, which is not a bad move when you're standing on a red mine, or really any mine. He played swiftness to reduce the attack down to 5. And then he played mana draw powered by one of these white dice in order to set the other white die blue. This is an important strategy point just for newer players. Generally, what you want to do when you play mana draw, and there are exceptions to this, but what you want to do is make the source as bad as possible for your opponents. So you don't want to change the gold dice to blue, nor do you want to change the red dice to blue, because that would give variety. So he took the color of mana that was singular in the source and then changed that to blue, which minimized the benefit of mana draw to his opponents. This gave him 2 blue tokens. 1 and a 2. He used one of the blue tokens to power up Determination for 5 block, which with the attack reduction from Swiftness enabled him to block the Stone Thrower. Then he played Rage, and thanks to Freezing Power, that was actually enough to kill this thing, because the Rage did 2 damage, or 1 damage, halved. The Freezing Power blocked, or got through the physical resistance, so that was 2. So that was it. The Stone Thrower died, and Goldix had it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 fame, and +1 reputation for the Green Dragon. So it was a pretty nice turn, and with the other blue token, nothing happened. He just got a red crystal for ending his turn on the mine. So he's still sitting with the wound that I gave him. And the white die that he had rolled, I don't know what it rolled to. Sorry. Didn't write that down. We're just going to pretend it rolled black, because you know what? That's what all dice get rolled to. If there's a mystery die later, then I'm like, oh, how did that die get there? We'll go ahead and fix it. Okay, it was my turn. So where the hell was I? Well, I had ended up with this hand. I had the Mana Bolt, I had Crystallize, and I had Improvisation, Swiftness, and Determination. So at this point, there was no white mana in the source again, so I again could not do Swiftness plus the Scouts to kill the Summoner that I was next to, which is extremely annoying. I had used both of my skills, so I couldn't do that. Let's just put the skills over here so we could see them, yeah? So what I decided to do was actually go over to the dungeon. The way that I did this was I played Improvisation, Swiftness, and Determination to get over here. And I went ahead and moved into the dungeon. So the reason I did this is that I had this blue mana. I could power up Mana Bolt with my blue die, let's say, that was in the source, and then I could use Crystallize with the blue crystal to turn the blue crystal essentially into a white crystal, getting ranged dice attack 6. So as long as I didn't have a completely terrible draw, like as long as I didn't get a Cryptworm or a Hydra, I was gonna be able to kill anything. The reason that I can't kill a Hydra is, of course, Hydras have ice resistance. However, as long as I didn't get that, I was gonna be able to kill what was in here just fine. And even if I got a Cryptworm, it wasn't that bad, because a Cryptworm would deal 2 wounds, and that was no big deal. I could heal the 2 wounds with my familiars. So as long as I didn't get a Hydra, I was gonna be in really, really good shape. And the odds of getting a Hydra were just 2 out of 11, so I figured this was a pretty slam dunk of a move. Of course, I got a Hydra, beating 2 out of 11 odds. Now, if I'd gotten the Hydra back in this dungeon, I could have killed it with range attack 6. If I'd gotten the Cryptworm in this dungeon, I would have just been able to heal up its attack and be totally fine. But because those 2 were flipped, I ended up taking 4 extra wounds, which is pretty horrifically bad luck when you beat very small odds to get 4 extra wounds. It's very, very bad luck in the game. But Hydra was what I got. So I had no choice. I took 3 wounds because I just didn't have enough juice at all to block. And of course, you can't use your units in the dungeons. I played Mana Bolt, powered by the blue die and a red crystal, for the Cold Fire attack 7. The reason for that is, of course, I needed to get past the ice resistance on this annoying Hydra. So I did that, and I got my 5 fame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was actually at 23 because I had forgotten to give myself the +1 fame earlier for using the Scouts. So I was pressed actually right up against the cap here. and I would not be able to level if I got any more fame at some point. But I did actually roll a spell for my reward. The blue die got rolled gold, so it was just red mana in the source, unless of course this black die was something else. And I got a spell. And then the spells, like I mentioned earlier, were kind of crappy. And here is where we need to have a little bit of an advanced discussion, because I made a grotesque blunder here, and I need to actually explain what the blunder was. I think this crystallize, I should have discarded it. I have 3 cards left in my deck. One of these cards is Ice Bolt. If I don't draw it right now, then it's going to be the last card in my deck. Then, when Wolfhawk plays Mind Steal in 2 turns, she's going to be able to steal the Ice Block. Now, if I hadn't gotten a Hydra, because I did play the Familiars to heal these 2 wounds, if I hadn't gotten a Hydra, I would have had this situation. So I would have been able to... and I played Mana Mold. So I would have gotten the spell that I took, plus the 3 remaining cards in my deck to complete my 5-card hand. And I would have been totally fine, because then I could have let Wolfhawk go to the Glade, and then she'd collect her black mana, but before she could spend it on Mind Read, I would play the Ice Bolt for the blue crystal and be totally fine. The other thing I could have done is, because these spells all sucked, I could have taken one of the 2 blue spells. They're both not very great, but I could have just taken one of them, so that if Wolfhawk played Mind Steal, I could discard the blue spell instead of having to discard Ice Bolt. And that would have been really, really key, because if I had done that, the advanced effect of Mind Steal does not allow you to steal a spell. You can steal an advanced action or a basic action, but you can't steal a spell. So I could have taken one of these to protect my Ice Bolt with. But I did, I made a mistake here. I did not take a blue card in order to protect my Ice Block, nor did I discard Crystallize to ensure that I would be able to draw my whole hand. I figured that Wolfhawk wouldn't be able to play Mind Steal. I don't remember if the source die was black, of course, or not, but I'd forgotten about this Glade, and I figured, well, the odds of getting Ice Bolt was 2 out of 3, it's no big deal, but I shouldn't have taken those odds. Those are, really, really dangerous odds. The danger and the effects were really, really bad. It's if I don't get lucky, I lose my Ice Bolt, which is like one of the best advanced actions in the game. Anyway, I made a stupid mistake. So what I did was, I took Flame Wall, which is not a very good spell, not really that much better than Chill or Space Bending. Fireball came up in the offer, so I was like, oh my god, if only Fireball had been there earlier. Fireball is, of course, a fantastic spell. Ranged elemental damage is terrific. And then I drew 2 cards, and the cards I drew were Promise and Concentration. So that means my last card in the deck was Ice Bolt, which meant that I was going to be screwed. Anyway, that was it for my turn. It was Wolfhawk's turn next. She played Tirelessness along with Wolf's Howl, flipping it to get a whole bunch of movement. This enabled her to move over to the Glade. She ended her turn in the Glade, and she was able to throw away one of her wounds. So she was gearing up now to play Mind Steal. Coming up next, we're on to turn 7. Shocking to believe that how long this night was lasting. Turn 7. Tovak had another slow turn here. He just played Instinct, powered by a red die, to move to the tomb that was right here. The reason he used a die was just to roll it, and it was an effective strategy. The die did roll to black, which was bad, of course, because if this die hadn't been black before, now I was like, oh crap, Wolfhawk can play Mind Steal. That's not good for me or my interests at all. Goldix played March with a green die. And okay, I guess there was, in fact, this had actually been green the entire time. He played March, powered by a green die. Eek. Dee-dee-dee-dee. To go over here and explore this. The card he found was this one. And he played then Steady Tempo, which is not that card, or that card. It's that card, yes, ladies and gentlemen. He played Steady Tempo to actually move over to this ruin. And I remember Pavel actually wrote, oh man, can it please be the red altar? And it actually was. So Goldix had tremendous luck, and pretty much nothing went badly for him this night, and he got the exact ruin that he wanted, the one that he could pretty easily take out on his next turn. He put Steady Tempo to the bottom of his deck. He re-rolled the green die to black, so if there hadn't been before, there was now plenty of black mana for Wolfhawk to steal our brains with. And that was it. So it was Arithia's turn. I spent my scouts to explore over here. And I had one last chance to not do anything dumb. I could have kept Crystallize. If I had kept Crystallize, if I had just done, I don't know, anything else, obviously there's nothing to do with his hand, but if I just discarded a card to rest, let's say, I would have drawn my Ice Bolt, and then when Wolfhawk played Mind Steal, I could have discarded Crystallize, should have stolen that, but it wasn't as bad as losing Ice Bolt. I don't know what on earth compelled me to actually play Crystallize with this red die and gain a red crystal. I don't know. It was just a terrible move because it meant that I was guaranteed to lose my Ice Bolt when Wolfhawk played Mind Steal and called the color blue. Now, if you're wondering, Boris, how'd you know that Wolfhawk was going to do that? The thing is, when you play by forum, it's pretty straightforward to actually keep track of what everyone has. So there was no way that, since I was out of cards, that Wolfhawk didn't know that I had Ice Bolt left. Anyway, my red die got rolled to white. I did get a red crystal for my trouble. And then it was Wolfhawk's turn. So I had like 3 opportunities, really, to make sure that I could play Ice Bolt. 1, I could have discarded Crystallize earlier. 2, I could have taken a blue spell to protect the Ice Bolt. That would have probably been the best move because it would have let me play Crystallize and still not lose my Ice Bolt. Or 3, I could have just kept on holding on to Crystallize, and then I would have not lost Ice Bolt. But in any case, I did none of those things. So Wolfhawk played Swift Bolt, got a white crystal. She played Mind Steal with the white die that I had conveniently rolled for her, and the black mana that she conveniently got from the blade, and she named the color blue. So everyone had to discard a blue card. Goldex had no blue cards. Tovak's only blue card was Snowstorm, which I'm sure he was hoping to use. And my only blue card was Ice Bolt, so I discarded it, and that actually went into Wolfhawk's hand. Boink! She promptly played it and got a blue crystal, and that's it. I lost Ice Bolt for the rest of the game. So I don't know why I was able to, why I played so badly there, but that was probably some of the most embarrassing play that I've ever had to showcase in one of my Mage Knight videos. So learn from my mistakes. If you know that your opponent has Mind Steal and they're standing next to a Glade, make sure that you protect yourself against the color that you know they're going to name. So anyway, that was it. She threw away another wound. This is actually my hand, not Wolfhawk's. Wolfhawk threw away another wound for ending her turn in the Glade. She played this. The white die that she used, of course, got re-rolled to gold, so it stayed a good color just long enough for her to do that to all of us, and that was it for her turn. We're on to turn 8. Holy ballsack Christ, that was a long round. Tovak announced the end of the round. Goldex actually had some more to do. He played Improvisation with Mana Draw and Promise and Learning, which he got when he had activated his Long Night. I'm not going to find it here. Actually, is that in here? Can I actually show you it? Yay! He played Learning. And so with all the influence that he got from playing a bunch of random cards, he picked up a card from the offer. Luckily, all this stuff was crap, but he did get the best card here, which was Diplomacy, acting as elemental block or as influence. The replacement card was Refreshing Walk, and that was it for his turn. My turn, I had nothing to do, so I just did nothing. I sat there. I didn't want to explore this tile because if I... Actually, why didn't I want to explore this? I don't know. I actually have no idea why I didn't just explore this tile. Perhaps I did and I just didn't document it. Let's take a quick look here. I think I did explore this at some point. I just probably forgot to... Yeah, I think I just forgot to notate that. So I discarded a couple cards and I explored this. I needed to put down a secret tomb next to this monastery, and that was a difficult choice. I could have either put it in the hills next to the spawning ground or in the desert. I decided to put the secret tomb in the desert so it'd be closer to me, and then I could decide maybe whether to go in or not, depending on whether or not my next round's hand was conducive to conquering a tomb. We were into the core tiles, so now gold units would start coming up. Okay, so that was it for me. Wolfhawk had then the last turn of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking around. She played Mana Draw, powered by a white crystal. To turn a black die green, she got 2 green tokens for her troubles. She used one of them to play Tranquility for heal 2, getting rid of the last 2 wounds from her hand. She actually had 4 wounds in her hand at one point. She didn't rest, she just healed them all up like a champ, and then she actually used the Glade to heal up one of her wounds from the discard. Okay, so that was it for the round. Let's go ahead and do a quick recap of where things are. Oops. Okay, so here's the situation. Tovak was the loser at the end of round 1, and he's still in a really rough shape. He's kind of out of position. He's sitting on a tomb. He doesn't really have the wherewithal to be conquering tombs. He's in trouble. Wolfhawk, Goldix, and Arithia are all kind of in a similar boat. Wolfhawk has dropped back because of this fiasco with the ruin and foregoing the keep and the tower, which I think she might have wanted to really do. She is next to this other wizard tower, and she would get to see at the beginning of the day what monster was in here to decide whether she wanted to take it. She was also in position to explore this core tile, so she's not in terrible shape, but she could have done better, I think, if it weren't for this situation. With that said, she did get a really nice reward from here and only had 2 wounds left in her deck. Goldix was the huge winner. He's in tremendous position. He's got this red altar that he's perfectly poised to take over with his 2 red crystals. And of course, in the daytime, it's pretty easy to get mana from the source. He's got a wizard tower that he's going to see what it is at the start of the next round to conquer that and get a spell. And there's a fireball on the offer, so he's, poised to take that. And then he can kill this thing, which sucks having to do that, but then he can go in and explore a core tile for himself. It looked like I was in good shape because I'm ahead on fame, but there are a couple of problems with the situation. Namely that I just have a bunch of wounds. I have a ton of wounds that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't been so unlucky. I also lost my advanced action I got for leveling up in round 1. I lost my Ice Bolt. That was due to terrible play. That was not bad luck. But I also have low reputation, so I also gave a lot of ground, so even though I look like I'm ahead on fame, the winner at the end of this round was definitely Goldix. So Wolfhawk and I would be playing a catch-up game. Tovak could theoretically come back and win, but given how out of position he is and how weak his deck is and the fact that he has no units, he was more or less out of contention to any serious degree by this point. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and or subscribe, and I'll be back soon with round 3. Take care, everybody.